Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I listened to those comments, and if you comment down there below, which I'd like you to do, you do two things for us. First, you help the distribution of our videos. So if you're enjoying these videos, we ask you to write a comment, click the like button down there, and help us distribute the video around, because YouTube does that by how many likes, how many comments, okay? All right. But one of the comments that I got here just the other day, because I listened and I answer those comments, was that, they absolutely love the flowers, which they're learning from their floral artists, but they also love to see those seascapes and landscapes. And so what I thought I'd do is show you how do I do, I use a lot of different techniques when I do seascapes and landscapes, and depending on the size and the complexity and where I'm going to go, if I'm going to go more impressionistic or more realistic. So I use a lot of different techniques, and so I'd like to show you a different one. I've showed you faux medium, some other fun things. Let's try to show it a little bit different way. This is one that I did from one of my online classes here just the other day. As a matter of fact, I'm just beginning to finish the framing of it here. I'm going to trim it with a different color or so here. This is a 20 by 12, I believe it is, size of a canvas and a board. It's a board, and then I take this board and I cover it with linen, which is what I show them in the classroom how to do. So this is a linen covered board, and then I paint with an excessive amount of paint on this to get all of the detail and stuff that you see up there with that. And it's a fast painting. This one took me about an hour and a half to paint. It'll be going up onto our online classroom here in the next month or two here as we start to run a class on quick seascapes. But what I want to do is along this line, not exactly the same, but along this line today. So I'll set that over there and show you a little bit smaller one and a little bit different way to do it. Let's come in just a bit here. So here's a smaller board that we have. I'm going to do a pure acrylic. This is what I do. I paint in acrylic, and on that one that I did over there, I don't even add any extender to it. I added no extender or anything. I painted pure acrylic, just thick paint built upon each other, and I do what's called value painting and optical blending. That's what I like to paint, is the optical blending. These are some of my favorite tools for painting landscapes. These little guys right here, these scrapers, paint scrapers and stuff. And this one you can tell I use a lot, and matter of fact, maybe I'll use it today, maybe this one. But when I do bigger landscapes, when I do bigger things, I'll use a bigger scraper and stuff, and because they give a lot of nice variation to the surface. Not just a brush stroke. It's the scraper applies the paint unevenly. You try to control it. Sometimes you can't, and but it's a lot of fun to do something like that. So here I have a board. This one I think is it's like 16 by 12, I believe it was. Let me just measure that real quick for you. It's 16, yeah, by 10, 16 by 10. And so what I do is I set this up and I start a composition. So, and usually what I do is I have a back wall back here, that's right behind the cameras, is back there. And I put up all different kinds of photos from all different kinds of things, of landscapes, seascapes, mountains, everything. I call it my wall of inspiration. And that's where I draw some of this stuff from and I build it. Now, sometimes I go out plein air and I paint, but a lot of times I paint, like today it's 29 degrees out and it's freezing rain and I'm painting inside. So I'm going to use my wall of inspiration and stuff that I have here. And I'll show you how I create that. And it create a lot of fun. I'm going to use also some of my fusion flats for painting this. And I'm using the pure acrylic paint. Matter of fact, I already squirted some of this out. I'll probably have to squirt out some more white out here. I have my basic colors out: burnt sienna, yellow oxide. This is Hansa yellow, naphtha red light, phthalo blue, pine green, quinacridone violet, and red violet. And I might put out some phthalo green blue, which I use in landscapes in conjunction with red violet to get really core darks for a lot of contrast. So, and this is my titanium white. So we'll set this right off to the side here. Set this off just a bit. We might have to expand take the camera out just a bit here so we can see a little bit more of that. Okay. So let me move this off to the side for just a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to decide where I want my horizon line. That's really going to kind of set your painting. And your horizon line is a really good, what we call a strong horizontal within the painting. And you need to preserve that as much as possible. If you want to create a lot of atmospheric perspective, a lot of depth, you need that strong horizontal in there. And I like to have them someplace in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint a lot of sea, maybe a little edge up here, a lot, maybe some land and some little mountains back here to show you one of the ways. This is just one of the ways that I do it. And so I'll come up here maybe 3/4 or so into the painting, maybe right about up in here. And then what I do is I'll establish that line that's right there. And then I'll take one of my brushes here, and I'll take a little water, just a little dirty water here, and some burnt sienna. I like burnt sienna. You know, I used to do a lot of underpaintings with burnt siennas and raw umbers and stuff, but I'll just take that, and I'm just going to run that right along there and just establish my strong horizontal here into my painting. That'll give me a good, nice, it's square up against the painting. It will, you know, give me a nice line to paint up against. I can blur it a little bit here and there to, you know, to establish, you know, atmospherics, wavy atmospherics and stuff like that. But that just gives me this nice, strong part of the painting in there to begin with. Now, what I'm going to do is I want this painting to have a lot of depth. And one of the boards that I see up there, one of the photos that I have up there, has this really beautiful dark. It's on kind of a cloudy day, and it has a dark, because of the angle that you're at to the ocean. The horizon line is really quite dark. So I'm going to take some phthalo blue here and maybe a little bit of my violet. As colors get back into the atmosphere, as they head back, they actually head the grayer to the violet side. So I'm just going to establish a little bit of this violet. We might go a little darker here. We might even use that red violet in there. But we're going to vary this color, and we're going to do this, you know, several times here. And what I'm going to do is just come along and push some of that violet right back in through here. Put that nice strong color right up against that line. I'll add a little more water here. But eventually I don't want to paint really thin. I want to get thick paint, so I'm going to build it several times here. So that's gonna work fine. You see, it's a real strong color here, and that strong color gives you a lot of contrast that you as the artist can now play with. You can always remove it. You can always change everything. It's color. It's easy to change. Let's just use a little straight phthalo blue in here as well. And sometimes I use this right with my scraper. Like I take my scraper right like this if I'm building an ocean, and I just pull right across like that. And I got a little bead of color there that's causing that to pick up on that one side. But I pull that across, and it gives you a little bit of interest to it, not too much. You know, going on. So sometimes I use a brush, sometimes a scraper, and a lot of times I use the scraper up front up here mostly. But let's continue on. Let's then add a little light. We're just going to set in some what we call foundation color for it, so we're not going to get too wrapped up into painting water stuff. All this is going to cover up, so we're just going to put some foundation movement into it right now here. And let's even toss a little burnt sienna into that so that changes. And usually, depending, of course, you know, on the ocean and where you are, I've traveled around the world in all the major continents, and you know, all the oceans are different. I love the beaches down in Australia. They're just magnificent, and they get this real greenish kind of color up in the front of it, which I absolutely love. And so I usually will toss some greens into it, a little pine green. That phthalo green blue works really nice. Now I'm pulling long strokes in here, but I don't want to do that too much because I'm just putting in some foundation color here. So I'm not going to want to do that forever and ever here. I'm going to toss a beach in here as well. So I'm just going to, I don't even clean my brush. I'm just going to take some of that color. We'll take some burnt sienna. We'll take some yellow oxide here. I'll model in a little bit of yellows here. Let's grab a big old dollop of white. And this is just an undertone color here for what we'll have here coming on. I start out very loose, very casual, just painting, just putting color on to really just give me a quick look, a snapshot of the painting. Just capture some of the quick colors of it. I'm going to walk that right into the water because we don't know where our surf line is going to be yet. And let's just go right across here. I have an idea of putting a little mound of color right up here, so we'll just push a little bit of that around. Maybe we'll bend that around. We don't know yet, and I know it doesn't look like much yet, but what it is I'm dividing basically my water, my beach, my sky into the three elements of it. I'm not painting them. I'm dividing it up to really kind of to give myself a look of it. Now, let's take some of that color right down here with some white. Let's add a tiny bit of the blue into that. That's going to give me a beautiful sky, grade sky blue right here. So having some of your beach color into your sky is going to give you a lovely harmony right up here. And let's just put a little water with that. I should move my dirty coffee cup of water right up here. And I'm just going to pull right along that strong horizontal there for right now. And just set that in. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just set that in for right now. We'll set some of this color in real quick. I like to work quick, fast, dirty brush. I like the dirtiness of the brush and those colors get up there into the sky and everything because it's all going to change. Everything is going to change. So there I have a good look at where that depth is. Now, so my strong horizontal is going to go here. I'm going to push up into some mountains and some other things up there first, but first I want to add a little more interest to that sky. So I'm going to go a bit more blue, maybe right up top up here. And let that gray sit down there, and I'll put just a touch more of the blue. In a lot of the landscape class, seascape classes and stuff, we talk about atmospheric perspective and the distance that it adds and how the colors change over distance. And so, we set that distance by how blue the sky is and how dark the water is, etc., and all and the colors and the tones. That creates how far back that you're actually going in, how far back you see. But right now we'll just keep that kind of simple right there like that. Let's just dirty in some back mountains and stuff like that back here thing. I'm going to take my shoreline here, just basically all the way across. Matter of fact, let me just kind of pull this color. Atmospheric, get some of that blue and all that stuff into there. Let's just kind of pull that line right across there because we're going to have hills and stuff all up in here. And we might drop that line down just a bit more. We don't know what. And I'm going to have a bigger hill up here. Having that triangle shape is going to pull your eye down this way. So having a triangle shape into your painting is going to be great. So I push up and I slide and I create different textures and different lines there. And see how this color is just very atmospheric here. So I'm just catching just an idea of it first. I'm not painting it yet. We're not doing any of that yet. I'm going to take a little burnt sienna and some of that blue. Now see, this dark gives me a good contrast color here to play against and allows me to say what's going to go on here, in some of my mountains. And sometimes this is where I will start to take like a scraper or something like that. See if I can clean off that little dirty bead of that. And pick up some of this color like this and just set that down and set a motion here to my hill, to my what's going to go on there, to set a little bit of that color up like this. And let me set this up, get a little bit of a glare on that. And pick up some of this. I just love to scrape the palette because all that color is good. And just set that up. Now I have to also decide on my light source, and I'm going to make the light coming from the left. So I'll set that here in just a minute. But right now I'm just going to break up some of this here. Just grab some of this, just model this around here. This is all good color. It's all good harmony color to kind of go with our painting here. And so I'll just break this up around like this. and set some of those areas in there, and they start to look even now so like little hills. Now light's going to come from the left, so we'll shadow here to the right, here down like that. We'll pull some of these shadows down like that. We'll have to make a little higher there so we get a left side of that there. We'll put some of that in, and the big thing is try not to set up a pattern. You want to be very loose with it and try not to set up a pattern at all. Try to preserve your strong horizontal as much as possible. I took it off there just a bit, but try to preserve some of that. So I'll give you an idea there of that. I love to do that with that. I love to take that and let's just grab some of this yellows and light. I'm just going to model this up right now, and you see we'll blow through a lot of paint on this. Here, let's get this a little more yellow. Just a touch of that blue in there, keeps the sand color. And let me just put this right up here onto the beach for right now. And this is how I apply it, down like this. I like to put it up. I like to paint on my big easel and clamp it down and attack it. But small paintings like this film better when we film down, and you can see the palette and everything at the same time. So we'll block that in here, and see, then I'll take it off with my brush. I'll just take my brush right like this and take that color off a little bit, add a little different movement to it, right like that. Maybe pull and push down, and we'll get a lot of movement to it. But the scraper applies it unevenly, and that's what I want to do. Is I want to apply this stuff really, really uneven. And I know it looks kind of like a mess right now. Just bear with me, because this is a fun part. This is a part of the painting where I just attack it and just have some fun with it. And then I start evolving the painting. And once I start to see a little bit more. Let's take some of that light color and let's drive that right along our strong horizontal there. That'll make it look like some beach and stuff over there. Now, sometimes I do this with the scraper. Like I'll take the edge of the scraper here and I'll just tap it right along here like that. And that can create beaches and wave lines and all that kind of stuff. If you paint something that is like that light color right there is nice. It works nice. It almost looks like little waves there on the sides. But if I want to take it down, I just take a little bit of my dark color in like this and I slide it right along the edge there and take out what I don't like right there. Now you have a little beach forming over there with just the edge of the scraper. Now, you can do it with a palette knife. I've done it with a palette knife for years and years, but I find that a scraper is huge. And just because the scraper is huge, maybe we'll make another little spit of land coming out a little farther here. So we'll bring this out a little bit more here. We'll just bring that out. But the scraper is huge and just does fantastic things, different things, because you don't have as much control of it. And because you don't have as much control on it, it's not going to be quite as stiff, as in the painting, as maybe your palette knife and stuff can be. So it works pretty well. So you can soften those edges here. I suggest you leave them as rough as you can for right now, because they they'll get softer as we get further into the painting. Let's drop down in size a brush here. Let's grab a bit of our green. We want to stay very atmospheric. Some greens, some burnt siennas here. Quite a bit of our blue. Blue and burnt sienna gives you that nice tone quality here. Let's cool it down just a bit. A little bit of red violet in here. Model some of that up and all this up into it here. And let's come right back into here and let's just push some of this back up into our hills here. This will be trees and bushes and stuff that's going to go on there. We still have to put our shadows and stuff in there, but let's get some of this core darks back up in here. Let's get some of this nice dark here, and I'll paint many different ways here as I'm starting to apply this color. And again, sometimes I do this with the scraper. It all depends on where it is I'm working, how I'm going to get it into that area and stuff. So we want to get some of this up and in and around, and I want to use some of the shapes. In other words, I want to use some of the, like if this is a hill, I want to use some powerful strokes, maybe some vertical strokes here to indicate those shapes, those hills, those shapes, that movement here through that. Maybe we'll have a tree or so edge right up in through here on this part of it, and you can pull a strong horizontal and then just a few taps of the brush to give some verticals here. Let's push some right up in here, and you can get more down, further down to a smaller brush and do little details, but just make it impressionistic. That's what keeps it pretty and fun, is the impressionistic part of it. I want to make like little grassy hills like they had. I used to live up onto the west coast and loved driving up along the coastlines and the hills and the grasslands and stuff coming down. So I just love that feel of that. Let's just pull that through here, and we'll just break that edge just a bit there, and let's just put in maybe a horizontal right there. Strike a bit of that sloped angle there, and you can just leave a bit of it, but that gives the feel of the slope there, and it may be a bit strong, so I'll just tap it out just a touch, but that gives the feel of that slope that's there. We may want to have because we want to have a bit of that slope coming in through some of this other area here. Some areas will leave the light. Now, see, any of this I can paint back with sky, too, if I want to adjust it later on. So it's easy to adjust. But vary the color, vary the tone. Let's get a little more yellow and light into that. And maybe just a bit of that light. And this is where I'll start to break it up a bit, too, as you have light side and shadow side of some things. So we might have a bit of that show up right up here. Right down to here, and I can set and push down some of that tree there as well. So we get just a bit of that here like that, and down like that. The variation, these two strokes here are a little strong. I don't usually worry about it too much here, but we can just slide it like that and take some of that down. Don't eliminate it, just take some of it down and put in a few touches of the light. This is where I like it. I've got real thick paint here, so I like it to kind of tighten up a bit, but I want to tap through this with some siennas and some other colors to break up some of my solid tree line there that I have. And so you're going to see some other colors come in there. Maybe there's just a bit of a view of an angle of the hill coming back the other way here. Set that up. Let's set up a stronger color coming down here. I like that strong little angled stroke there. Maybe cool that here. Just push back. Set that edge in there like that. Very, very impressionistic. I love the impressions of the paintings. Let's get a little burnt sienna into that here like that. So that sets up that back there just a little bit. Let's take a stronger blue right back here and fix our perspective. So that little edge is going to come out here a bit more. Maybe a bit more on that. Right here we'll put a bit more color, a bit brighter, a bit more color. We'll bring it forward. Here, more paint. See, look, thick paint that I have in here. This is optical painting. Take just a bit of that off and soften that up. Maybe we'll have a few little tree lines, which will darken down, but let's see what that looks like if we just push in some ideas of some trees right in there. That might be fine, and might need to get some of that phthalo green blue out to get that nice dark. We need darks to come forward, so let's just try a little bit of that though. A little bit of pine green, red violet, some blue. Vary those colors in there. We'll build those up. See what happens there. We can take a bit of that, not quite as heavy, and just add a few touches into here. Try not to paint always in one direction. Try to establish color strikes, color touches there, and that's what starts to build more interest. So, I may come back in here and just strike an angled color here. Notice how flat I use my brush, and up and down like that a bit, just a few verticals, most of it horizontal, guys, and then that'll set that in there like that. That's not too bad so far. I'm going to bring the beach, I think, in at this angle right in here like that, so I don't get too horizontal. I've got a nice, beautiful, strong horizontal there. I'm going to restate some of that horizontal with a little bit darker, I think, here too. Get a little phthalo blue and a little red violet, and really state that nice and a little bit darker to play against that right there. And it will actually physically drive more depth into this painting, just a bit more. Sometimes you do light, sometimes you do dark. It all depends on the atmospherics of what you're looking at there. I want to do here. I want to put some clouds and stuff in here. So let's take some of our gray colors here, beach colors, and the blues. We'll drive that all together here. Maybe a bit of violets I like into that. Here, a bit of violet makes that nice, cool gray color here. And let's play some clouds. Just boom, 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 boom. Right up here, maybe right up against the edge of this line here too. Here, we'll play some around here. Maybe take it right off the edge of the board there. And see, I just hold that brush really flat and I just scrub it. And you can do all kinds of fun things when you're painting with the acrylics like this. Like you can rinse that brush just a bit, take some water, and you can really smooth out those back lines if you wanted to. And which I don't. I like the scrubbing action, but I'm using a color that's very close. It's just grayer. So I'm setting the foundation of it up. Now I'm going to set it right up next to this hill. So like this cloud is coming behind a hill, and what that'll do is actually push this hill a little farther forward here, especially after I get the light color into it. But let's get this grayed color right here like this, and maybe right off the edge. I lived on the coast for 30 years and fog was always in there. But I do love painting the coastlines. So let's drag some of that right over this edge here. And just set that right back. That's why I love the acrylics. I'm not blending, I'm just dragging it over it. It's, this area is already dry right here, so I'm just dragging the color over it, and it just recedes it back. See, it just creates that nice receding edge back there. Let's pick up a bit more white. Now here's your gray. Just go a value, no more than 2 values lighter. And come in here and go smaller. Maybe if you were going to paint, there's sometimes I paint clouds with the light sources and stuff. So if we're going to say light's coming from the left, I would hit more of the left side of some of these clouds here, and and leave some of the right. And this just leave some of the shadow, that shadow gray, onto the right side back there. But up against where I'm going to have this mountain is I want to have a strong light right here, strong light cloud. And I like that because see how much that pushes that mountain forward here. And then we'll just take some of our nice grays, some other color here, and just take that off. Let that just whisper off here into the back. But I like that strong kind of light right there. Makes it pretty. I always look for that kind of stuff where I can, push stuff forward, like under the mountains and stuff that I do up here, like the one mountain that's right up there. I push it forward with with the white. I use all different kinds of techniques. That's the thing. Here on the YouTube, you can only show you a little bit, and can't show you all of the techniques that artists use or what we do. But now you see it builds that, and I might destroy the edge of the hill line there just a bit with that cloud. So I play back and forth, and with that blur it out a bit there, and that becomes very impressionistic. I love that part of the painting. I used to be a realist when I paint. Now I'm more of an impressionist. I love the loose brushwork. But if I want to, you can take a bit of that yellow right back there and build that right back. And see, the more times you do that kind of stuff, the more things happen, the more visual elements. Like, let's give another little visual element right in here, a visual light. And just tap a little bit of that around. Now I'm breaking up and adding some of those light elements further back, and it's creating more depth of field back there. That might be a bit too light, we'll have to see, but I think it might dry down enough. If it doesn't, I just slide over it a bit. Let's get a touch lighter. Let's push that right into here. Boom, that gets that nice light here. We're doing a fast painting though, Dave. We won't get too involved in it. And a bigger painting and I call these kind of study painting kind of things. And in my consignment paintings and paintings that I do for sale and stuff, I add quite a bit more to it. So you'll see artists do that. Those of you that are just getting into selling, or you want to find your way into selling and stuff, I paint a couple levels of paintings, and these are study type paintings, and I don't mean to do them perfect, and collectors look for them too, because they're really just as valuable to a collector as a really good, strong painting that you work on for a long time, because they're your quick paintings, they're your quick concept paintings, and they really show a lot about your brushwork and your calligraphy that you use. So they're really great that way. So I set some of that up there. I want to destroy this mountain line here just a bit more, take a bit more of an edge here of some stuff there to get some more tree kind of things up there. Maybe some more of my siennas up there. Just push the brush, strong verticals, horizontals. Sometimes I'll use big brushes, small brushes, but I never paint detail. I paint impressionism of it. So, that looks kind of like little trees there. And that's when I make, I push the brush up with a couple of verticals. It makes it look like a few little trees back there. And then I leave it. Man, that's pretty good. If I want to have more of a beach, I might pick up a little heavier light color and just drag it right along the edge there, just like that. And that gives it just a little point of a beach, or sometimes I'll put a little point of a wave or something like that along that. Let's get into some rocky parts here too. So we'll get some of that burnt sienna here. And let's just add a few little rock. This is nice thick paint. Remember, we just really put that on thick. We'll drag some of that through like that. We'll paint up with back and forth between this and the lights here and create this little rocky point. Maybe we'll take some burnt sienna blue. That's a nice, beautiful grade color. And push up and down a bit here and set some of like a little cliff area, rock faces there. And so I've got a lot of verticals in there, so I'm going to want to get some, break it up with a few horizontals, holding your brush kind of flat here. Break it up just a bit. And don't paint it perfect, because you're letting the impressionism, you're letting the viewers see it. If you give it too much perfect shape, the viewer's eye cannot find what they need to make it the element that they think they see. So you want to give it enough to say, okay, that's beach or that's rock or something like that. But you don't want to give it so much that too much shape that the viewer cannot find what they want it to see. And it's like when I was reading this one impressionist, and it's just fantastic. What he said, he says, don't rob the viewer of their imagination. And so you don't paint it absolutely perfect in there. Just paint some of the elements, the colors, the elements, the lights, the darks, the feelings of it. Let's get a little more sienna. And so don't make too long of a vertical or horizontal there. keep that a little bit softer edge there. Just set in some ideas of verticals in the colors of rocks, and they'll see rocks. There, like that. So, and let's just put a little beach, maybe a little beach right here. So we'll just go ahead and put a little beach right there. Boom. Maybe we'll just set that up there. Maybe we'll get a little more light. We might put some light water in there when we get in there. So we'll see. We don't know. Let's put a little stronger horizontal there. Right like that. That'll set that just a bit before it goes back into the rocks. That's not too bad. I'm going to cut this right about down in here. Let's get into some of our beach, and then we'll go out and paint some of this lovely water here. So I'm probably going to need to get out more color here, because when I really start up in here to the front, I really start laying on the color, because I'm a real big advocate for laying on thick color up into your center of interest here, and especially right up into this area we want, because it's the textures that are going to really pull it forward. And this is what I like, and I'll be doing this towards the end of the painting too, is just dragging this right across like that, see, and you get all of those colors starting to pick up and move through. You get some of this is what I really like, this unevenness of the color, that you can come in and brush along the edges there, soften it out a bit. But I want to take this into the water just a touch, because I don't know exactly where my surf line is yet. I haven't decided that here, so let's push this in and out here. I want to put some violets into this painting, I think, as well. So I want to get some of that in here. Let's take some of our lighter colors. Let's get a big old dollop of our lights, our blues, some violets here. Just kind of model these all together and go way down the side here, just like that, right into our line. And right now, this is where my students usually fall over with a heart attack when I do something like this. And I'll lighten that with a little bit of blue. We'll drag through, we'll drag back like that. Remember, we're painting Impressionism. A little different than I've shown you in some of my other YouTube videos how I do things. This is a little different technique, a little different way of doing things. I use all different kinds of ways. But I find this, when I started painting this a few years ago this way, these sell really, really well, because they allow the viewers, or they'll say, oh, that looks like where I grew up as a child, or something like that, And it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice, It works kind of nice. Let's take this and let's clean off just some of that sand off of this. Let's just model some of this white. Don't overmix it. Just model. Pick up some of that nice white, a little bit of that sand, a little bit of this color that's right here. We're going to put an edge of rocks and stuff right out here by the water here. Just pull that across. Now, don't worry about anything about getting too much or anything like that, because we paint it out. Okay, so, and I'm going to need to get more color. But we paint it out. Let me take a little green and a little blue into that. And we'll just pull right into that, right like that. And when you use the acrylic that thick, it stays wet, and it's wonderful. It takes a lot of bravery to do this kind of stuff, though. To put on that thick amount of paint like that, and then just to drag through it a bit. And it's prettiest if you don't drag too much. You just let it kind of do its thing. Let's pick up a little more violet with that. Make this kind of violet color, which happens along the surf line. And let's just paint into that just a bit here, just kind of tap in and through. But see that scraper just put on this nice little bit of heavy light right in there. I'm not done with that. We still need some more of that. Let's get a bit more light right out there. Just boom, right through the edge of that part of the beach. And let's grab some more light right up over here. Boom, just grab that through. Just grab that, pull that through. some more light in there. And I can turn these, like, I'm going to clean this brush out just a bit. And give myself here a, where there it was, my white was underneath the palette. To give myself another good shot of my white here. So I'll need some more of that, and I need my yellow oxide, some more of that. We got a bit more to do there. Maybe even a little bit more of my phthalo blue here. Get some of that out. When you paint like this, you get a magnificent little painting, but boy, you go through a bit of color. So let's just take that and streak through some of that back through here a bit more. Right back into it, makes it look like waves and other things going on in the back there. Don't paint it too much. I mean, you don't need to, you know, don't play around with it. Just put it on there and let the viewer see what the viewer sees, you know. We can take a bit of this light, see? A little bit of that violet in there. Just scrape right along that edge like that. This time I'm holding my brush very flat. And I'll put on a little more than what I need there. Then I'll just take my blue, some of my violet, press that into the brush, drag right through that, take some of that out, because the blues, the darks are more powerful than the lights, and they take out real easy here. So rather than trying to go deep with the light, no, put a big slug of it there with the light, and then paint it back out with the blue. So you might put a few little touches of that out here, like it's a little wave line or something like that, and then adjust it a bit. Adjust it a bit there, so you get a little bit of a surf line or something there. You can add touches of it back there, or touches of it, little chisel marks of it back here or so if you want to, and just a little skip, just kind of skip your brush real thin and put a few indications of it there. If you get too much, just take it out with your dark blue, or just slide some of your dark blue through there. Take just a touch of that out and you get just a little bit of it. I can see after putting all this on here that I really would like to have a stronger light. Let's just get a little more of a light right up into this part and let that paint down into those trees and stuff. A little stronger light. And break that color just a bit. Tap that around. Put a few little tree kind of thing, shapes in front of it. Few little horizontals right there in front of it to push it back. There. Set that into the hillside there. That's kind of nice. Maybe a touch of that light up here at the top of this hill. I don't like it to go boom, boom. That's too much the same. So we'll give a little bit different light right up here at the top of this one. There, like that. So you get a little different look to it there. Okay. How you doing? Did you fall out of your chair yet when we're using this much paint and doing this stuff? It takes a lot to be brave. I mean, you just put that stuff on there, and you know, we feel like we're losing control. But you know, one of the core concepts of this is dark takes out light. Okay, dark takes out light. So just splash that stuff around, that light colors, especially as you get up here. Get those textures, that light color in here, and then that dark takes out the light. That's if you're using a good quality paint. That's what works, okay? A lot of this has to do with the quality of the paint that you use. And so, you know, that's another bit of the concept. I got to work on this just a bit over here. I'm going to set in some rocks, maybe some rock. This is some suggestions of some rocks and right up in here. And so we'll put a few of them in here. Now see, there's a lot of paint there, so that's real hard to get that on there. So I just want to blob some stuff in there right now. And that's the nice thing about acrylics is I can just wait a few minutes. That'll tack up, and I can get them in there even easier. So do that. Just a little blue and burnt sienna here. And we'll just put a few ideas of some. They're going to go right in there, and maybe a stronger one right out here, stronger edges of them. And you can paint little rounded rocks, or you can do whatever you want. I like to paint impressionistically. I like to slide with the flat and then go over to the corner of my brush and direct it a little bit here. And I'm looking for little verticals and horizontals and stuff in there as I start to splash that around a bit. But we might towards the end here splash another little, like a little rock out here, and just break up this beach just a bit. Make it more look like the beaches where I grew up. And let's take some of our yellows. Some are pretty yellow, some of that violet here. Some yellow. I love the yellow oxide and the violet. Those are pretty colors to go together into the water here. And see, just kind of splash those colors along into that thick white that is still kind of wet there. And if it's not, just splash around a little bit more. Let what happens in here. Don't overpaint it. Just paint. You have this color. Paint for the movement now in here, and just let what happens. And if you're following along mine or something like that, you're never going to get exactly the same look as I get. Just like with the flowers or anything else, just enjoy it. Paint the light. Splash some stuff around. Enjoy the painting. You're never going to copy. I can never paint this painting again because how it lays off the brush is controlling, but you don't have ultimate control. Does that make sense? You don't have ultimate control. So, you can come close, but you can't make it exact. We can put light in, but you can't make it exact. Let's just hold flat here. Sometimes I do this with my scraper. I reset my lights in here, and right up here I try to model it into the surf line there, so I get some different lights here. And let's come out here. Let's put more of a wave lake. Let's go back over to a little bit of models of our blues and our whites. And let's turn this into more of a wave here. Just pull down at a slight angle coming towards the beach here like that. Okay. Let it diminish down. Maybe a little bit of blues modeled in here. Let it diminish down here. Just push at a little angle and pull a little angle. Something's a little off. Take a little dark blue and push up into it. That'll change its direction or change its bit there. Now I'll take the same thing here. I'm going to take a little bit of my violet, my blue, and I'm going to push back up into that. I'm just painting them. I'm not painting a big curling wave. I do that in other things. This one is just a quick little suggestion of it. Now I'm going to take some light and drag this over here like it's little foam and stuff coming out. Very flat on my brush. This is where that fusion is beautiful. I hold it very, very lightly in my hand. Very flat. You could just feel the ferrule scraping along the edge, and it just puts on just a nice, very casual edge of it here. Real thick white here. Then I picked up a little yellow there, and I love that in there. Let's pick up a little more splashy right around where these rocks are going to go. Boom, boom, boom. Right around the rocks. Just splashy water right in there. Remember, you're impressionist. You're not exact. You're painting the impression of it. A little more white here and there. Just a little more white. Splash through. Coming through. So if you get a bit much, and that might be a bit much there, I just put some dark into my brush here, and I take it back out in a few areas. Boom, just drag through here. I can create motion, movement, all that kind of good stuff that we do. Okay, and I'm going to go up, get some of that heavy blue out of my brush here, go up to my wider, bigger brush, because I like to do that. It's all modeled with color. I hold it very flat, and I drag that, and this is where you can create the transparency of the water over the look of the water over the beach here. And remember, you're impressionist. Don't, some people come in and put the wave and then put the little shadow and all that kind of stuff. You can push back a little bit of a shadow in here towards the end if you want. You can do that and push a shadow line in. If I wanted to divide this up and push a shadow line in, Sometimes I will do that, sometimes I won't. I like to get the motion in here, get some of these violets in. I like to get that beach like it's coming into the beach here, so I'll pull some of this out like that, in and out, and get that angle in. And maybe a stronger light in a few areas, like right in here after it's, churning from these rocks. It's all bubbly, so we'll strike a little stronger light. And see how you get more ruffly if I do it this way than if I do it this way? That's because I'm going against the grain of the hairs of the brush. So I can get more churning if I pull it this way through it than if I pull it that way. So I'm controlling. So if I want it really churny, I go like this and see the churning of that water. If I want it to smooth, I go like this. See? So I can control how that looks. That's really easy to do with a fusion brush like this. You control that. Let's get a bit more of that churning water right there. Light colors up there. Now, when you thought this was really light up there, see, it's not so light back up in there now. Let's get just a bit more white and curve these, hit these edges just on the tip of the brush here. Pull that over just a bit. Sometimes I use a small brush and pull them over a bit more. Or angle them back down just a bit more, and or I'll pull a lighter violet color or blue violet kind of color here through them like this to give the wave as it's curving over. So I do that sometimes. Sometimes I just leave like little light points as the waves, build. I should have a bit more of a light back here because it's the building of the waves. And so I drag it back through like that, and drag it back through like that, and then I take some of my darker color and I paint back what I don't need. Here, create that, and then I just got that nice movement in there, see? All right, let's get some really nice heavy light beach sand right up here. Take some of these colors. Let's take some of these colors and pull these all together here and just lay that on here. Real thick beach sand here. That's pretty good. See, it just lays it on thick and casual. Then I just model my brush up here with some of these other colors, and I come through and just kind of break it up a bit here. And that sets that all in. Now you've got this beautiful, lovely, thick paint that when somebody's coming in, the viewer's coming in and looking at it, it looks like a painting. That's what I love. It looks like a painting. It's got heavy impasto color. It's rich. It's heavy. It's thick. That's when it's just so much fun. And boom, let's get some of that real thick color in there. This is really, really, really wet here now. It's almost like an oil paint, and I don't always like scraping against that because it blends too much. So sometimes I let it tack up, and we might go work on the hill here for a little bit while this tacks up. But I'll take some of my violet, some of this color that was coming from the waves, and push that in and out here. That's if you don't want to have that shadow line and stuff in there, and which, we have paintings that we do that with. This is more of an impressionist look at it, which, I really enjoy. I'm going to take some of this dark. Let's get some of this. Let's decide on this, closing this side up here. First, let's just take some of this and just drop that right in there. Actually, let me do this smaller brush so I can get a little more interest. Burnt sienna, blue. Let's just close this up with some rocks, and we can put a little beach there, a little angle of that. We might cut that right off here to whatever, but we might put a little beach into this right here, just a touch, and soften that out, and put that strong, love those strong horizontals there. You do so much in a painting. Let's drag down a bit and work this up a bit more, a bit rocky, a bit more stuff. I'm going to have to let that tack up here just a minute. And if we want that to be more of our beach, we've got to get a little more burnt sienna into that right here. And I don't like a smooth line. See that smooth line? That's not the look I like in these paintings that I do, so I want to break that up a bit. And see how I hold my brush against the grain. If I want to really break it up, I hold it against the grain and break those colors up and get all that movement in there. Now I got that is tacking up a bit, I can get a little more rock color in there. And you know, when I look through the painting, see that dried down pretty nice back through there. And I can put highlights and stuff onto these rocks. I generally don't because I like them dark into the water and stuff there, but you can put highlights. We can tap in maybe another little rock or so right in here. Break that up just a bit. So it's just not perfect. And, you know, you can pick out edges or fix edges or blur edges, like put a little bit of the light right back up into the edge there and blur that. If I let these two colors kind of come together back here, maybe it looks like a little rock just peeking out of the water there, just a touch there, bubbling around and picking up. You know, it's a lot of fun to do stuff like this and just let yourself go and try some different things. Boom, just try that in there. That's not too bad. Might fix that beach just a bit, but I want to put some let's get some burnt sienna, some greens, some of my blues. I want to put a darker hillside like grasses and stuff here. Maybe pulling up and down. We'll put this several times, but this will get some nice core darks up here into the front. Look at that thick paint. This is what Impressionists, this is what we want to have, this thick paint moving around here. And grab that, push that around. Sometimes it's best just to get some of those verticals and horizontals. Uncontrolled color going in with, well, it's controlled color, but uncontrolled movement, really. Let me set this up so we don't get that glare so you can see that darker color. See that darker color playing against the light right in this area. This is really where I want the viewer's eye to be coming up into, right up into this type of area that's right up here between the beach. And so it's playing against my beach and the front edge here. So that allows all of this interest back here and not have it take away from my rest of my painting. So you just get that, boom, you get that nice stuff there. So we're going to have a class, if I haven't scared you completely away from doing something like this. I have online classes if you want. I need some more burnt sienna. If you want to go over to Jansen Art Online, you can see the online classes. I paint all different kinds of stuff. We just opened up our Westerns class, which I just finished that Western there, which I have some different Westerns and new color theory. You know, how do you know what colors to do what and where? That's my biggie. It's going to be a year-long class with over 100 videos in it. It's going to be just an amazing journey. I love color and color theory. Of course, that's where I started, colorist and chemist. But I love that part of it. So I've got this nice dark ground in there. And we'll want to break it up here and there with some of the stuff. But I'm going to want to turn some of this like into bushes and stuff like that. And I might want some of that to appear back over here. We'll give a little more vertical, almost like rocks and stuff there. But I want some of that to appear there. And so you see a few of it just appearing up everywhere. But we're going to want to go more greens, yellow greens, that kind of stuff. We're going to want to lay in all different, and this is where you got to constantly change the tone on your brush. Don't paint too long with one color, because you'll just ruin the painting by having it all one bit. You know, you want to set some different colors in here. So you can go in and make bushes and make things here, but that's not what impressionists would do. We give just the impression of some of this stuff here. We'll break this edge with some bushes here. Okay, so this will be the edge. We might take that into that edge there a bit. And see, that's a nice wet edge there. I can just soften that out. And this is where I like to play back and forth between these edges. And I look at, if I don't want that to be so severe there, I just touch the two together and soften that out. Take your eye a little further into the painting here, like that. And this is a bit of a straight line right there too. And I see that. I'm going to let that tack up just a minute while I go fix this one area here that I don't like, and I'm just going to pull a little watercolor through there. So maybe there'll be a little bit of a break and a little water coming through. Get rid of that straight line there. Just like that. See, you just model that brush and pull it through. I pull it through this way. If I want the water to be a little smoother, maybe an edge there, I pull it this way if I want it to be really churning and stuff. So maybe I want it to churn a little bit right there. So I'll just take a little bit of paint, churn it a little bit there. Right up there like that. Let's put just a touch of a churning water right there. A little bit more than that, Dave. That wasn't very impressive. There we go. Just a little bit of that there. And maybe just a bit of calm up and through. There, that works pretty good. Maybe a bit of the light right up onto the beach there from that water. That goes all the way up into there. That looks pretty good. Just drag it and let what happens happen here. And let's just get some of that water line here. While this is drying up still just a bit, we want it to tack up so I can put other colors on it easier. So we'll put some of that on there. Just little strikes of the light foamy water there. If you want it more churning, you can hold your brush flat the other way and see how it gives it just more churning there. So that works pretty well. And let's get in here some of our lights and set this down. I really like to get low onto the thing, way low with my edge of my brush like this, and that's what builds some of this, some of these bushes and stuff. And I'll probably put a little drift of sand in there too. But that's what I use to build some of these bushes here. Sometimes I do a smaller brush. Sometimes I do this all with a scraper. You'll see other paintings I do that. You get all different kinds of look here. We're painting quick and impressionism, so we'll get some of that. Let's get some of this yellow or color back in there. It's too much the same. Yellow and a little burnt sienna back in there. Here. And let's put a little, maybe a drift of sand coming up through there. So I get some of that burnt sienna and yellow oxide, some of that blues stuff in there. It just gives you a beautiful sand color there. Put a little drift of that coming in here. And it's really wet, which starts to make it harder, so you might want to let that tighten up just a bit. You have your shadows to consider. If you were doing this, so you would have shadow sides of your bushes and stuff. So you should get some shadows in here. If the light's coming from the left in this painting, you should have some light. And so when I do something like this, and I usually use several different tools to give me some different edges and stuff on these bushes and everything. But I usually, and I might take make this one right in here a little bit of a rock face. That just tipped me. I can do that. So I'm not quite so green, but I like to use the corners and little pushes and, you know, and just set some stuff in here. Let's get some of this rock face going in here. Verticals. That'll be good because I got a lot of horizontals in here, so get some vertical going here. And some of that color in there. Let's drift that sand again. A little bit of that going out. See, when it's really wet like that, it blends too much. I don't like it to blend too much. I like it to be I like it to dry up a little bit. So I could, you know, myself, it's like I was an oil painter for years and years and years. And I could never do something like this again in oils because it just is too wet for me. I like it to be stiff and to tack up a bit, and then I can play those edges and do all of this fun stuff. We'll drift some of that sand right down into that as well, there. And that's how I like to do it. I'll probably leave this really kind of dark up here, but we'll drift some of this through. Get a little more burnt sienna into that. A little bit of blue here. Get a few of that, and you just, you know, and this is where I like to play. As my center of interest, I will play these edges several times. Not specifically, I don't like specifically paint bushes. I don't go in there and go, okay, here's the light side, stuff like that. I did, you know, for years. I did. That's how I thought it was done. And but I mean, you can't do that, and I don't mean to say that. There's beautiful artists that do that, especially as you get towards realism. But when you're painting impressionism like this, no, you just get in there and you look for your brushes to catch these edges, to do these types of edges, and you know, this is how I like to do it. I like to push and drag and get those edges and different greens and stuff kind of pop in, pick up some yellow greens, but to a certain extent, some of that has to be dry for you to be able to do that. So, and this is what they do because it's optical too. It's optical. You set back, and you know you start to look at what is this going to look like from 5-6 feet. That's what I usually paint something for, 5-6 feet. Let's take a little bit of that sand and drift that in there. Here through. Grab some of that. That's all works pretty good. Yeah, I was going to paint that rock in there. Get a little bit of my violet in with that too. That's just beautiful, cool, dark, purpley colors that go into that. Get some of that rocky color. Because we could paint that into more of a rock here. Or you can just leave it most of the colors that you have up there. But we should put some of this, let's make a lighter gray, blue, right into these. Burnt sienna, blue, and a little bit too much blue. This is where I really love to get these colors all modeled up in here like this and see what's happening with them. And, you know, drag through to create little light colored rocks. Let's go through, change that up again, lighten that up a little bit here, like that. Put on that kind of color there so you get that. You might want to drag some of that. Now I'm putting on too much, right? Because I'm going to paint it out. So I'm putting on too much there. And then I'll grab some of my dark and come in and paint some of that out. Little angled strokes can make a rock look like it angles back here. There, like that. So you put on too much and then you paint it back out with those darks, and it's easy to paint the light out with the darks. And so they do a really nice job. We get some of these rocks. We might want to have a little bit more of a brownish color onto them. But let's get that dark in there. I like the dark purpley colors for some of those shadows up here. And right up in there, a little bit of burnt sienna in it. Sometimes if it's a little too cold or dark, I put that burnt sienna in there, which warms it and lightens it a bit, because burnt sienna is a little bit lighter than the violet. And we'll tap through some of that. I'll work that through. Yeah. Work those through there. I like that more impressionistic bit up here. Let's just drag this here. Put a bit of that just like it's sitting over the edge there. And then pull back here like these are little rocks coming up here. And don't play with these too much. These are not your center of interest. If they are, you've painted terrible ocean. So keep your eye up onto the ocean. These are just little rocks, little edges. Blur these edges here. Let that just be impressionistic. I'd like to do one more drift of sand in there, and a little bit darker bit here onto that rock area up there. That'd be nice, but I'd like a little lighter drift of sand, a little more yellow coming right up through here. Maybe just a bit more light yellow. Maybe even use my big brush. Still a little wet, but I'll probably let it tack up here and just put another little drift of sand up there. I'm going to take these in and out just a bit, kind of take these two planes together just like they're joining up there, just a touch. And I like that slight angle here, so it's like coming down to the beach there, right down like that. So I'll leave that slight little angle there, and these are coming down together a bit. A lot of fun to paint this way. You know, you take an hour and you just have a lot of fun. You go for it. Now I could put some small highlights on my rocks. You can do too much, but you know, just any kind of little lights or so, just kind of dab and paddle those around in here like that, and you know, do a little suggestion of it and stuff, but not too much. I like the bushes up in there too. Not too much. Just a bit there. And the rocks and play your colors back and forth. But remember, it's all really about the up into this area and stuff. We might take a bit of that light now and just hit a few of those. I just love painting with these fusion brushes. And you know, I had them. We had them in the line for a long time, and I didn't use them until I started to become more impressionistic. And that's when I realized I really need that edge that they do to get that. So I really got a lot of edges and stuff in here in a painting like this, and it's from the combination of a real stiff edge to a real soft edge, and it really works. I'm going to put a little bit of a drift right down there, I think, just to pull your eye back there. Touch. Let's just take a bit of that out. There. That'll dry down just a touch. I think it's going to dry down, because remember, acrylic's dry just a touch darker. So I think that'll dry down pretty nice. Maybe set some rock color, shadow color, right up over there like that. And that sets that pretty nice. Do you want more waves, more foam, more stuff going on? We could have maybe a bit more white. Let's just take a big old dollop of some of our white right in here, and let's just add that. Now let's fracture that up a bit. Yeah, that looks pretty nice right in there. That big old dollop, big thick dollop of that white paint coming through here gives more power right into that area of the painting. I'll take just a touch. Now that blue down there is dry, so it doesn't bother me. I'll take a little lighter blue here, put that onto the brush, and just take out just a bit, wipe some of that out into the direction that I want it to flow up onto the beach. Here. So you get those colors and stuff going there. That really makes it perfect. I mean, just so pretty. And I just love the impressionism of it. Boom. Yeah, that nice little burbly water there. Just get some of that burbly water. But you need some thick paint. Put that thick paint on there. Get brave. Take your brave pill and just go like that. And then you can soften it out anywhere you want. There. And it just makes it pretty. And that's very, very impressionistic. And so when you set it back, on something like this, let me set this back up here. Move this back up. And so when you set that back and you look at it from back there, then you get it a little bit more impressionistic, and it works a little bit better, I think. So you just step back from it. That's when your painting gets really good. Now I could lighten up those hills and stuff when I step back like this, but so I could lighten that up. But I want you to see this. I want you to see just how much paint is on the surface of what it is that I'm painting there. So if I want to pull your eye, further back into a painting like this, maybe I strike that just a bit lighter. And if you like it at that color, then you should probably lighten it just a touch more, because it will dry down just a little bit. So we might want to hit just a touch more right up here. But usually I don't play too much, because I'll start to flatten it out, and it gets time to stop your painting there. But that's how you do it. So when you're all done, your hands need to look like this. And you need to have your scraper where you have to go clean off your scraper, clean off your brushes. It's a lot of fun. It's big, thick paint. It's dragging it over the surface. Painted it on linen like I did on this one here will give you slightly different looks, because the linen pulls the paint off of the brush different. So you got that little bead of the linen, the weave of the linen pulls the paint off differently. A canvas, like a 10-ounce canvas, is really great on larger ones. You leave that canvas weave so it pulls the paint off a little different as well. These are all different kinds of techniques that artists use to get different types of edges, different types of look, how much paint they use, there's a lot of them. And this is some of the stuff I show you over on the Jansen Art Studio or the Jansen Art Online, our online classes. And some of these techniques that I use on here, believe it or not, I learned from Western painters. And I didn't go out and just study all these seascapes. I apply those particular edging techniques and texturing techniques, and how are they creating this effect of depth. And I apply it to a seascape, or I'll read something on a landscape and go apply it to a floral. I go back and forth. They're artistic, visual techniques, and that's what I am, as a technique painter, okay? And you can do this. It just takes a bit of practice. It takes a few boards, and it's a board. It's a board, and it's a bunch of paint, and you sit down and you have some fun with it. And you're not going to capture it at first. No one ever does. And, some people ask me, it was like, oh, well, I'll never get there. This year, I have painted 500 paintings so far. We're almost at the end of the year. I've painted 500 paintings. That's my normal, between 400 and 500 paintings. I do a lot of these. To practice and practice and practice, so that when I come in here on YouTube, I look like I know what I'm doing, okay? And that's all it is. It's just practice. Anybody can do it, okay? Alrighty. I'll see you on the next one. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go get yourself a scraper and have some fun. All right. See you later.